Our second speaker, Ron, Rethink Transportation. Rethink Transportation, Ron.
Fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. General Motors doesn't want you to own a car, nor do 45 other companies. Every major car company and some other companies you may have heard of, like Apple, Google, Amazon, Cisco, because the future is this: transportation as a service. The car is gone as we know it. You won't be owning a car in your future. Okay. And here's why. Electronic vehicles compared to internal combustion engine vehicles are simply cheaper to run. To put it into perspective, you'll save 70% on fuel. You ready for this? 90% savings on insurance. Because autonomous cars cannot, in theory, collide. There are currently 5.5 million car accidents in the US a year. Imagine if it was down to a couple of hundred because of computer glitches. 80% decrease in the cost of maintenance, because in reality, it's tires and brakes, but the brakes won't even wear out because they have a thing called regenerative braking where the engine actually provides the braking for you. The other bad news for ICE vehicles is you have economy of scales. Right now, here are ICE vehicles. There's thousands and thousands, millions of them made. And here's electronic vehicles. Very few of them made. But what's going to happen is this is going to take off. And as this goes up, this is going to go down. But the plants that produce them, the overhead is the same. So the only thing that can happen is the cost of each vehicle must go up. So it's going to turn around. If you want an internal combustion engine, it's going to cost you more than an electric car. Interestingly, Tesla decided to test how good their cars were. So they turned around and created a thing called Test Loop. And it was like Uber, a rental agency. You phone them up and say, I want a car. Model S shows up and takes you wherever you want to go. Their cars average 17,000 miles a month. Based on that testing, they realized it was costing them between 20 and 25 cents a mile. Now you got to realize this is a Model S, about $150,000 Canadian. And that included depreciation and financing, and it was still only 20 to 25 cents to run. They discovered that the Model S's are going to last to 1.5 million miles. Okay, so probably 10 times longer than a normal car. The other thing is that cars are used, if you have a car, on average, 96% of the time it sits there doing nothing. If a car was used 100%, we would need 1/25 the number of cars we currently have on the road. Now, what does this change when everyone starts going to transportation as a service? The economic and social implications. They calculate that by the year 2030, the average family in the US is going to save $5,600 a year of additional income they're going to have, disposable income, because they're not spending it on their car. You ready for this? $1 trillion will be added to the economy because of that. Mm-hmm. The other factor is they currently have, I don't know who calculated this, 140 billion hours of people sitting driving in cars. When you have a car or transportation as a service, you're a passenger. You get out your tablet, you start work. So from the minute you jump in the car, you're now productive. That productivity, again, is equal to $1 trillion. The bad news is 5 million jobs will be lost, and that equates to about $200 billion. one good point is that a lot of people now can't find jobs because they can't afford transportation to go very far, but with really cheap transportation, I'm talking, I've seen it as low as a nickel a mile. Okay, they can go pretty well anywhere they want to find their jobs. And finally, and lastly, the fat fingers. Oh, okay, never mind. Oh. Environmental implications. 90% of carbon CO2 would be reduced if we go into this program. And what'll happen is that represents 26% of the total CO2 emissions. So 90% of that means that about 25% of all CO2 emissions will be eliminated. Globally, 3 million people die from air-related issues due to air pollution. The cost of people dying before their time is estimated to cost the world $1.7 trillion annually. Now, you ready? This is going to floor you, and I've verified it 3 different spots on the internet. Annually, 1.2 million people are killed in car accidents yearly. Also, 50 million are injured. With autonomous vehicles with all the safety features, the chances of you being in an accident are very, very remote. So in conclusion, the future, you're probably not going to own a car. The good news is you're going to be richer for it, you're going to be healthier for it, and you're going to be safer